Oh my god. Okay, yes, this is very relevant. Japan and American Twitter finally united. I don't know where this is gonna... It's 5 days ago. Okay, so this is probably when they were still on friendly terms. What I will say before we watch the video is, at least initially, it was a lot of, wow, you like Japan? Wow, you like America? And everyone just being cool and hanging out. Probably gonna head to bed. Good night. Catch you later. Anyway, let's watch the video.
Imagine opening up Twitter and all the posts are from a foreign country in a language you do not understand.
What the fuck is that?
And, oh wait, you can read it? The posts have been auto-translated by Grok. A lot of people likely don't have to imagine this scenario as...
Sorry. What the fuck am I looking at? What the fuck am I looking at? What is this character? Where did you find this?
In a language you do not understand. And, oh wait, you can read it? The posts have been auto-translated by Grok. A lot of people likely don't have to imagine this scenario as the last couple weeks, many American...
Well, not just auto-translated, they made some, I don't know if mistake or change in the algorithm that also started merging the different language communities together. So a lot of just Japanese posts being recommended not to weebs, but to just regular Americans.
Users did experience this firsthand. And despite my description of it sounding like an annoying bug, the weird part about it is nobody seemed to mind. Many people even made it clear how much they enjoyed this experience. For about 72 hours, a part of the app was basically just Japanese and American people posting about barbecue, and everyone seemed to be enjoying it a lot. Who wouldn't though? Barbecue is pretty awesome.
Barbecue's pretty awesome.
Even so, my impression of X is normally not this good. Why were people able to be so wholesome for a couple of days? It is a very suspicious scenario to me. So I wanted to look into how this actually happened because it didn't just randomly occur. And also, while I was looking into it, I found out some stuff about Japanese Twitter that I had no idea about.
I wonder what you mean by that.
Which I will get into later. Though that isn't really surprising as I try to stay off it as much as possible, so there are a lot of things I don't know. But first, we should probably start off with the post that kicked the whole thing off. It all starts in a place called Sasebo. It's a port city in southwestern Japan, pretty close to Nagasaki, and has had a US Navy base there since the end of World War II. So basically, American military and Japanese locals have been living together for a really long time there. They even have their own regional burger called the Sasebo burger, which was apparently invented because locals watched American soldiers eating hamburgers in the 1950s and thought that it looked pretty good. So they made their own version. Which is a cool story, but it is completely unrelated. On March 25th, a Japanese artist who goes by Futochimpo posted a drawing of American soldiers
I don't know why that name is so funny to me.
At a yakiniku restaurant, where the soldiers are a bit too excited over what's on their grill. The caption read, "In Sasebo's restaurants, you often see US military personnel enjoying their meals with cheerful enthusiasm. One day at a yakiniku restaurant, the group I spotted reached an oddly feverish pitch, just from looking at the bacon." And that is translated from Grok, which I figured would be the best way, as that is what everyone would have seen, right? Well, maybe not. The translation being done by a large language model leads to a really interesting phenomenon where each person is essentially getting a slightly different post. Depending on where I looked, it could be written quite different. Some of them didn't even feel like the same sentence. For instance, the translation I got read an oddly feverish pitch. So I opened it on my phone and I got oddly intense level. I'll talk a little bit more about this concept later.
I would say the message is the same there. Yes, translation is a little bit different, but I think the point gets across in the same way. There are certainly issues there with translation quality, though. From my experience, the translation quality has been mostly good. However, some people get very particular about... Okay, here's one thing. There are people that don't understand they're talking to a translation and get very annoyed about the specific words they're seeing. You have to look at the translation as a general message and try to interpret it in the best light possible, because there are going to be cases where things sound a lot ruder, things don't get communicated exactly like they should.
But I do want to go over the interactions more. After this illustration, the post got a lot of interactions and people were posting many photos of meat. That post hit
Gender arguments are going to be fun. All I will say is there was a long discussion about immigration between the two. That's all I will say. You can go find the discussions if you want. Regarding gender usage, I haven't seen enough to really comment on that, but it seems like from the usage I've seen, it mostly handles stuff fine. Granted, I'm not looking at anything where it's like debates about specific characters. Tweets would be Americanized. The funny thing is because of the training data, a lot of the translations, I've said it a bunch of times in this stream, a lot of the translations feel like anime characters. And that's kind of based on the amount of training data we have for English to Japanese translations.
4 million views, which is a pretty good amount. Then 2 days later, a different Japanese user named Hotcake-kun quote tweeted the original with a photo of American guys standing around a grill full of steaks. The caption translates to something like, "If we're talking about American guys and meat, I like this photo. Someday I want to go there and be a part of this." Like I said a minute ago, the last one got a lot of views at 24 million. However, this one got 46 million views, far surpassing the previous one. And at that point, the floodgates were kind of just opened. Some Japanese users started posting about how much they love American culture, and Americans talked about how much they like Japanese culture. It was a very wholesome mutual interest. American users slowly started discovering that Japan has an entire cowboy subculture that they had no idea existed.
Yep. There are weebs, there are people in Japan that are obsessed with America. Not just obsessed with America. As I've said, there are people in Japan that talk about cartoons the same way that you talk about anime. There are people that talk about King of the Hill, American Dad, Family Guy, the Flintstones, the Jetsons, like any cartoon, the same way that you talk about anime.
True American patriot, Jun Saito.
Are there Aussies with American culture? Yes, they live in Sydney and Melbourne. I try to avoid them.
Posted photos of himself in full cowboy attire, talking about how much he loves the American South.
Oh, yeah, Simpsons. Forgot about that one.
And then another user named Haruka Awake provided a vast amount of evidence that yes, there is a whole subculture in Japan dedicated specifically to the Southern Union.
How to get the attention of the American man. Cute Japanese girls.
United States, especially Texas. But something I kept thinking while seeing this is, why would this just start happening now? Japanese people didn't just magically appear on X that week, so why did people suddenly start getting the good content? And if people clearly do enjoy it and it's not just some fabricated thing, why could it not have happened before? So the real question is, why are there two groups randomly put together a couple weeks ago to interact like a weird social experiment? To answer that, you kind of have to understand that Twitter has basically been running two separate platforms under one app for years, not counting all the other places and languages. But simply for this video, there's the American version and there's the Japanese version, and they barely interact with each other at all, unless people from each one seek each other out or there's some extremely viral post. So the reason most Americans never saw Japanese Twitter is pretty simple: the algorithm. If you tweeted in English, you saw English tweets. If you tweeted in Japanese, you saw Japanese tweets. It's pretty simple. There has been a translate tweet button for a very long time, but I feel like...
Yeah, but the translate tweet... I just noticed who it was. I saw the Berserk shirt. Yes. Okay, he's very much a weeb. Cool. The translate tweet button has always been like a manual thing. Now that it's automatic, not for every tweet, but most tweets, it's automatic, it can more easily, like, you can very easily see a tweet and not even realize it's in a different language. So now it's a lot easier to sort of get that kind of content in your algorithm. And it seems like even though you might not consider it being a Japanese tweet, I don't know what this translation is. That's a Google translation. Fucking Google's just making shit up. Twitter still seems to consider that the tweet was translated from another language. So if you're interacting with translated tweets, even though you don't consider it being translated, you're still interacting with Japanese tweets. And if you interact with a Japanese tweet, that means you might like to see other Japanese tweets, and it creates this sort of feedback loop where you start seeing a lot more of Japanese Twitter. And same thing with Japan. They will see an American tweet in Japanese, and then you're interacting with an American tweet, therefore you want to see more American tweets. Not just Americans, like Australians, and anywhere else as well.
Many people didn't really click it because it was kind of slow and the translations were not very good.
Yeah, that was the other thing.
You've probably seen some of the bad translations before, and they can't...
Basically, unless you knew who the person was, like it was a streamer you watched or something like that, or an artist you cared about, things like that, a Hideo Kojima tweet, you probably didn't ever click the button.
Can be pretty bad, though it does make them interesting. So you had two massive user bases sitting right next to each other, but not interacting because it took too much effort. And it just doesn't really feel the same, does it? When you have to go click translate post, and then you don't even really know if it's working great.
Right.
But then in mid-March of 2026, two things happened at basically the same time. The first thing was that X rolled out seamless automatic AI-powered translation through Grok. This time, it would simply give you the posts in your own language. It did not require you to put any more effort in than just reading a regular English post. While previously you might have scrolled past because, well, it's incomprehensible, why even stay, now you wouldn't even notice it was in Japanese until you looked at the image attached and it's something really weird. I jest, but seriously, it is very seamless now compared to previously. Now you'd see a Japanese tweet and the English version would just be right there. You didn't have to do anything.
Honestly, what would be really cool if they rolled out OCR translations as well? If they rolled out OCR translations, you wouldn't even think about it. Where would Filipinos fit into this? You know, I've never actually seen a tweet. I don't think I've ever actually... Like, I see a lot of Spanish tweets, a lot of French tweets, a lot of German tweets. I don't think I've ever seen a... Huh. Yeah, like, anyone I know who's Filipino, like, interacts in it. I'm sure there are plenty of people in the Philippines who don't speak English, but anyone I know that is from the Philippines speaks English.
The second thing, being a bigger one, is that they changed the recommendation algorithm. The For You feed started pulling in posts across language barriers because now with the easy translations, there really is no language barrier. Now the only thing that's really impossible to...
Would I read Tagalog tweets? No, but if it's translated, I would. I don't know Tagalog. How many is that? 2 in chat right now? There's a few people in the Discord as well. Sort of like 4, maybe 5.
Translate is just cultural differences. So if a Japanese post was getting a lot of engagement, the algorithm would now show it to American users too, with the translation already done. One Taiwanese user described it as mind-blowing because you could just simply reply naturally and forget that the translation was even happening.
I do think if your intention is for people of another language to see the tweet, I would recommend using simple language. Whatever your language may be, whether it be English or French or whatever. Speak in simple language. That'll make the translation easier to do. If you're using a lot of metaphors, a lot of, like, weird specific phrasing, things can get a little messed up. And I've noticed this, and that's how you get some of the fucking absolutely cooked tweets from Japan.
And Japanese users were noticing that their posts were suddenly showing up in English for American followers without them doing anything. So this whole wholesome cultural moment that everyone thinks just organically happened, it didn't really. Well, it did, because people still chose to interact with each other, but it wasn't as random as it seems. Essentially, the two groups had just been separated, and now the wall was torn down, so interactions were more possible now. The bacon post just happened to be the start. While people have since stopped talking about barbecue as much, there are still a lot of posts still going between English and Japanese or any other language. A big wall has
Where is it? Where'd it go? Yeah, there's certainly a bit of a discussion still happening. Let's go to the where is it? View post activity. It's way too scary that a thief is stealing people's artwork and displaying it in their own museum. Japan thinks of games as children born from their companies, so if the game ends, their life ends there. Overseas, they think of games as works of art, so if a good work ends, they want to revive it so everyone can know about it. They think they want it to be preserved. In other words, you can absolutely never understand each other. I'm gradually starting to understand the difference between Japan and the West. It seems like in the West, there's this thing called there's this thing called EA trauma, where there's a conception that big companies equal evil empire that crushed indie genius creators and profited off games. Fuck, this guy gets it. There was someone else I saw who compared reviving a game to, like, necromancering, like, your dead child or something. Where's another fun Japan one? Okay, you want to post way too fucking much. It's culture different. Reading the comment section, I'm shocked by how. Oh yeah, someone called me a monkey. Someone called me an uncivilized barbarian. Here we have a French tweet. Fuck Japan, land of turbo suckers. I don't want to hear about turbo suckers from the French. It's funny how Japanese people are criticizing behavior, or non-Japanese people are criticizing the Japanese themselves. Man, there's so many fucking posts here. Holy shit. Jesus Christ. It's simply a crime. I won't forgive criminals who infringe on the rights of creators I deeply respect, nor will I forgive them who steal game companies' works and even distribute them to the public. This isn't just the view of some Japanese people. It's a near-universal consensus. This is an unacceptable criminal act. If you're going to play Japanese games, then follow Japanese laws. Turbo suckers.
Has truly been removed. And this brings up another question that I had. Why was the Japanese and American exchange talked about so much more? And no, it is not because Place Japan. Well, a lot of it comes down to this one
part of it is Place Japan.
Singular stat, which surprised me a lot.
What? What? Wait, what? Why is Japan the second biggest group? I'm sure there's like a reason for that. I don't know what it is though.
Japan has roughly the same number of daily Twitter users as the entire United States. Which, when you look at the population numbers, Japan has about 125 million people in it. And America has 340 million. All the while, they have the same daily user count.
Like, so basically, what, 75% of the Japanese population use Twitter? I didn't know it was that big there.
On X. Elon Musk actually addressed this himself in a leaked internal speech to Twitter employees shortly after he took over in 2022. He told the room something like, "It may seem as though the user base is US-centric, but if anything, it's Japan-centric." 67 million total users, which is 53% of the entire population of Japan. It is by a wide margin the most popular Western social media platform in the country. Remove Western and it's not, but we'll ignore that. If you're wondering why that is, the origin story of how this happened is pretty cool. Starting back in 2007, when Twitter was still tiny, small enough that their entire company could fit in a single room.
As far as I know, Twitter is basically the only massive social media that took off in Japan. The rest are all niche. So, well, a lot of the other ones that are popular in Japan are homegrown platforms, right? You have Nico Nico Doga. You have Line. Line's not social media, but it's like, it's WhatsApp. Huh. I'm actually not sure what other platforms are popular in Japan. I know obviously Line and Nico Nico Doga. Oh, 2chan.
They didn't have an international strategy, localization, or a Japanese language option in the app. And somehow Japan was already one of their top markets. It just seemed to naturally happen. Because of that, it also naturally expanded as well. Japanese users were just finding out about the platform on their own, figuring out workarounds for the improper encoding and limited Japanese options, and spreading it through Japanese blogs and forums. It really is a miracle that it got that popular. Meanwhile, a Japanese company called Digital Garage, run by Kazuya Minami, who had some connections to Twitter, and co-founder Evan Williams from his blogger days.
My guess would be they didn't really have a good competitor at the time. That would be my, like, the thing that makes the most sense to me. Because when was Nico Nico Doga? Nico Nico Doga. Yeah, that launched around the same time as YouTube. Maybe a few months after that. And then Line. How long's Line been around for? Line first came out in 2011. Wow.
Noticed that this was happening. They reached out to Williams and struck a deal. In January 2008, Digital Garage made a $200,000 investment in Twitter and basically became the unofficial Japan team. After this, they did some really important stuff. They fixed the character encoding so Japanese text wouldn't just get corrupted when people posted it, and they negotiated this really important change where Japanese users got the full 140 characters instead of 70.
That's actually a big change, because if they were counting double width characters as 2 characters, that would have completely fucked up what they could write. And so I guess effectively Japan pretty much has always had 280 characters. Not exactly, not everything is double width, but I guess effectively they've always had it. And you can say a lot more with that many characters anyway. And now that you have the upgrade in character count, pretty much anything you'd reasonably want to say in Japanese, you could just say. Has Twitter ever had a good competitor? Not really. Not really. Blue Sky was setting up to be that, and then they just started doing a bunch of stupid shit, and then fucking, what's-his-face, the guy who started Twitter, left Blue Sky. The Fediverse is an absolute mess, and is never going to improve. I don't really... I guess Threads? But Threads is so tiny, and most of the Thread user base... Jack Dorsey, yeah. Most of the Threads user base is just because of Instagram. I don't really think so. Like, Twitter was the first... Like, there have probably been some little apps here and there, but Twitter was the first microblogging website that was... You know what? Was there a microblog before Twitter? Because Twitter sort of... It popularized that idea. Because there were people microblogging... Oh, microblog is a term created by a platform called micro... Wait. Yeah. Sorry. Wait, I'm actually confused. This fucking Wikipedia article is a mess. Because Twitter's been around... Like, I think people forget how old Twitter is. Yeah, they started in 2007, right? When was Facebook? Facebook was 3 years earlier. And before that point, people preferred... Like, people who did microblogs did their own blogs. Yeah. Microblogs used to be hosted on your own site. Right. But I don't think there was a good dedicated microblog service before Twitter. You just had people microblogging on full-length blogs. I think what made Twitter different was whilst people were microblogging before Twitter, it made it easy to share the posts, right? You can see a lot of posts on Twitter rather than going between a bunch of different people doing their own blogs.
It was a big deal because it helped people socialize on Twitter, which the main purpose is to be a social media app, so that is kind of important. Then in 2011, the Tohoku earthquake occurred. An 8.9 magnitude earthquake along with a tsunami, and almost 20,000 deaths. In the middle of all that chaos, Twitter was a major communication tool. As this article states, initially the site served as a way to get breaking information from a variety of official and unofficial sources, including some eyewitness accounts. It also acted as an electronic bulletin board, passing on tips about everything from the location of bathrooms to ways of tracking loved ones. And after that, the user base just kept growing from there and never really stopped.
Okay.
So now, with that history lesson out of the way, what was that thing I mentioned earlier about each translation being different? This is one of the more interesting parts that I didn't really see many people talking about, and it basically all stems from what Grok really is. When using a typical translator, you will likely get the same answer every time. This is because they are purely there to translate specific things to other specific things. Grok, on the other hand, does not rely on specifics, and there is actually some randomness intentionally put into Grok. And it makes sense when you think about what Grok really is. At its core, it is a chatbot. This leads to posts being translated and read differently from person to person. 99% of the time, it's not going to be the end of the world or even really give a different meaning, but some of the translations certainly do have different feels to them. But yeah, overall, I don't really think it causes...
Also, though, the translations produced by Grok are night and day better than anything I've ever seen on Google Translate. Like, there's a few tools out there that people have been using for a while that are relatively good, but the Grok translations are genuinely impressive.
Causes any problems, though I feel like there should be one translation generated for each post. Also,
That would
I feel
make
like
sense.
it might save on the amount of times that AI has to run, but I don't know, I'm not a technical person. Anyways, thanks.
So, the reason why they generate multiple translations is there's a little button right here. There's a little button right, where is it? Right here. Rate this translation. This is what we call training data. I would expect maybe sometime down the line that they merge it into a single translation for every single... Like, I don't think they're generating like a new translation for every single post. I think they're generating a bunch of different translations and then A/B testing them. That seems to be what they're doing. And then using the rate this translation feature as a way to determine what the good translations actually are.
Thanks for watching, everyone. It is greatly appreciated. Please do like and subscribe. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye, Mr. Gnome. Well, it was fun. I enjoyed that.